Hello, I am Sean of the Lore Hunter, and this is the second episode of my Sekiro Shadows Die Twice First Impressions series. So the first episode ended with me receiving a bell that an old lady gave me, and from seeing the angry red eyes of the Chained Ogre and knowing from pre-release that he was weak against fire, I decided to check out the Hirata Estates. The sculptor talks about offering a bell to the kind Buddha because it might show me something about the wolf's past. It sure does. Dinging that bell brings you back 3 years prior to the Dragon Spring pilgrimage at the Hirata Estates. So the estates are being attacked by thieves under curious circumstances, searching for the divine heir Kuro. So is this time travel, reliving memories? I like to think of it as something as like a mystical dream. Buddha is showing the wolf something, an event that happened, but not exactly how it happened. But sort of the big thing I think about it that I want to put out there is I think that anything gained from this memory is coming from it's because he's being shown something like Buddha or potentially somebody else is wants him to see these memories and wants him to have this information and also these items he gets. And speaking of that, it reminds me of the tale of the samurai and their witch I mentioned pre-release about how the samurai goes into a dream to get a sword in order to beat the witch who has some similarities to the corrupted monk. And it sort of reminds me of how he goes there and he's getting his tools like the flame barrel and the what else is it? Also the axe. So he's getting these important elements sort of from this dream state, and as I mentioned before, if it has something to do with some sort of deity or powerful being sort of wanting him to have these things, then, in addition to the memories, it's also sort of his tools that he's getting out of it. So there is a so there's a slight that being said, there is a slight mechanical narrative divide in how you sort of can go back and forth between the Ashina outskirts and the Hirata Estates. How you can just sort of leave the Hirata Estates. It's not like you're locked into a memory, which I definitely understand why they did it because it gives you like basically two opening areas to sort of bounce back and forth. And I think it's sort of signposting that that's how they want you to approach the game. This is sort of a microcosm of the larger loop of peeking into areas, and if you run up against a wall, maybe move somewhere else and see if you get some more, purchase there, or you get a tool that helps you out with your current situation. So, going into the Hirata Estates, I really love the change in atmosphere. I think it looks gorgeous. Like I saw pre-release, but it's still different when you're peeking around yourself, and you still get that title card and the fire and the nighttime. It's such a nice contrast with the Ashina outskirts, and it's this really nice mix-up. And when I got in there, I went into the water right away. I went straight in there, smacked a fish, treasure carp, and knowing from pre-release, I knew there was an NPC around here who's a Miyazaki original, and that's I can't remember his name. I'll call him Barrel Man. And he has a number of interesting items. I wonder what those mask fragments do, because if you don't have equipment, what does that do exactly? It seems like it gives you something, especially because to get the different fragments seems like it would cost a fair number of treasure carp scales. So, but on from there, you're just sort of skulking around the Hirata Estates, which I just really love, running along rooftops and ambushing people and getting absolutely murdered by a rooster. I also enjoyed talking to people. Ashina feels alive. It sort of reminds me of Central Yarnum, where you're talking to all these people in this one section who haven't been busted up yet, really, and they'll tell you different things. And one interesting bit of dialogue from someone in there was they were accusing the wolf of being behind the attack, which is occurring sort of, it's so successful because the samurai are away. So then the estate gets attacked when they leave, and it's sort of suspicious, admittedly. But it's curious to think about, and I do wonder why the protector of the divine heir was not protecting the divine heir. So that is an interesting point, and sort of Chekhov's gun. Like, why bring it up? And maybe it's a misdirect, maybe not. But it definitely adds a bit of mystery to this already mysterious thing about like what is the wolf doing? Why, why doesn't he remember the last 3 years? What was he involved in something that he'd rather not remember? So it's just interesting to keep in mind. So yeah, and this is also where I got my first dragon rot thing, and this is where the sculptor gets sick, and almost more tragically, the old lady also gets sick. That hit home hard. This worked out smartly for me because I got a new skill tree as a result. So I was back at the place. I got a new skill tree, the shinobi skill tree, and knowing what I did, I knew Makiri was the way to go, and I had the points. So I got to the estate. I put that to good use, and but when the way it worked out for me with the dragon rot is I got back to the dilapidated temple, got the skill tree, I had the axe, I got Makiri, and so now I was all prepared to take out these shield guys and confront the shinobi hunter. And boy, does the shinobi hunter eat me. It took me just a few tries, but in my final try I was sort of lucky because it was like a like a lucky Makiri as I was trying to figure it out, and then it was a lucky Makiri, and then I just smashed R1 to victory. So it didn't feel super like I won by skill as much as luck. After this, it's very densely packed with a bunch of guys going up to this bridge, including a very big boy. And I was noticing with him that I have trouble seeing his health and posture bar because it tends to be like above his head in a way I can't see on the screen. So I'm not sure if that's, it just seems like a weird design thing, but as a result I was dodging around him a lot, and it kind of seems like that's the way to kind of do it. Like his health is kind of the thing because his posture is so resilient, and there's so much of it, so it sort of feels like a Souls enemy kind of chipping away at their health versus their posture. And because they don't block attacks, it's sort of a good indication of that's sort of the approach for them. And so after I get through this, I get to this wild section with the owl, which I wasn't expecting. Not something I had any clue about, and that was really interesting and cinematic. And he obviously he exists functionally to give you a key, but also they want you to go there to see the owl and sort of how he dies as a result of the attack, which feels like an important character moment. Yeah, that was just a really interesting moment, especially how afterward the whole thing just sort of catches fire. It's really dramatic and really pushes you onward. So the next area is moving onto this area with a bunch of people jumping up this well. If you go in a different direction, there's like these spear guys. I am not good at the Makiri yet. I'm trying to like hit forward and B at the same time, and it's just not connecting. I keep getting poked by them. But jumping up that well felt pretty badass. Very a lot more athletic than I am personally. So. Real people. So that was pretty cool, jumping up that well. And then so you get to the top and there's just this burning hell world where I know that there's Juzou the Drunkard. At that point it got me thinking about nice, snowy Ashina outskirts. So that's what I decided to go back to next. I decided Juzou, I'm gonna hold off. There's just a lot going on up here. It was the first time I noticed the sort of, I'm on Xbox One base, and I did see a bit of a frame rate dip just walking through the section, which sort of makes sense because there's like a lot of like fire effects and people and stuff going on. But it was the first time I noticed any sort of, for me, I'm not a huge FPS person, it doesn't bother me. But it's the first time I noticed sort of like a noticeable like frame rate dip. It's not the whole time, it's just, it's a little bit jankier feeling. But yeah, so I wrapped up, and I'm gonna wrap up here so I got up to Juzou, and now I'm in the next episode. I'm going to cover heading back to the Chained Ogre and pushing forward into the Ashina outskirts until it bounces me back or something. So that's what I'm going to cover in the next episode. So again, thank you for listening, and I hope you're enjoying the game as well. It's a lot of fun. It's hard. It's good. It's definitely testing skills I've not flexed in a while, or maybe not flexed at all with, especially with the Souls games. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So thanks for watching.